Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's discussion on harvesting innovation, transforming agriculture with AI augmented open networks. We are here to explore how intersection of technology, data, and innovation is reshaping one of the oldest industries in human history, agriculture. Agriculture has always been the backbone of our economy, Indian economy, but today with the climate change, population growth, and shifting market demands, it faces unprecedented challenges. The potential to leverage AI and open network to solve these challenges is not just exciting but also essential. Whether it is improving productivity, crop yields, reducing wastages, making farming more sustainable and accessible, AI augmented networks supported by foundation layers are already beginning to transform the agri landscape. Now, if we see the entire digital agri landscape, we would like to imagine it in three layers. The first layer being the foundation layer, where Government of India has come up with something called AgriStack. AgriStack is a combination of three registries or three databases. One is a farmer's database. The second is a database of crops that the farmers are growing. And the third one is the land parcels where the farmers are growing the crop. So it, in a sense, defines who the farmer is, what they are growing, and where they are growing, which helps us in identifying the right citizens, customer, or end beneficiary. The second layer, interesting layer, is a network layer, which is helping in reducing the information and innovation asymmetry. This layer essentially is getting formed to connect all the foundation layers and all the information, data model, data sources that are there to ultimately with the farmers. This allows interoperability of information between government, research institutions, non-profits, private players, and Open Agriculture Network and Vistar are such examples. The third layer is what we call it as application layer, which essentially is propelling the ease of doing agriculture for the farmers. So this is the layer which helps all the organizations in getting the latest technology, get them to the farmers or reaching the farmers ultimately. There are two parts of this application layer. One, wherein we are improving the accessibility of the latest research, technology, as well as inputs for the farmers. And the second part of this layer is where a lot of research that can be ported onto the network. So there are two types of applications that are getting built. With this context, today we have our esteemed panelists with us who will be shedding light on some of these dimensions. To start with, let me invite Kirti. Kirti is a mission director of Open AgriNet at Center for Open Societal Systems. She brings extensive experience in leveraging innovation to tackle citizen challenges. She has worked with GIZ and BMGF on AI-driven information exchange in Bihar and Kenya. She is currently focusing on harnessing disruptive innovation, policy, partnerships, and finance to strengthen and sustain societal systems. Welcome, Kirti.
Thank you, Utkarsh, and thanks for the good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. And as Utkarsh mentioned, that agriculture can be seen in three layers: the foundational layer, the network layer, and the implementation layer. So what we have started recently, an initiative called the Open AgriNet Alliance, which is a joint initiative by XTEP Foundation, FIDE, and COS, to which I belong. This is a global coalition of agriculture practitioners, organizations, public and private sector. We have about 450 plus organizations, 100 plus practitioners on the alliance, and who have come together to shape the digital agricultural transformation globally. So I'll just try to take a step back and tell you why we are working as an alliance and not setting up a solution which has to be implemented globally. Now, if we look at the agricultural landscape, it is, while it is fragmented, the requirements of every country is different. But at the same time, there are certain basic foundational standards, basic protocols which can help countries kickstart on their digital agriculture transformations quickly. So as Open AgriNet Alliance, what we aim to do is develop a global blueprint for agricultural transformation. The idea is to have plug-and-play modules which any country can adopt and start their digital agriculture journey. It's also not only about countries. It's also about farmer producer organizations, FPOs, and farmer collectives in different regions who can come together and set up their digital agriculture, the e-agriculture transformation. So what we'll be doing as the alliance is we'll set up a network protocols for agriculture, building certain digital public goods, and providing AI-based toolkits which can augment digital agricultural practices. And to make this a reality, what is essential that we have a policy and a governance system around it. Any agricultural transformation needs to have institutions accountable for any program which is being implemented. And there has to be, a farmer has to be at the center of it. And we need to keep in mind the different stakeholders in the ecosystem, be it the suppliers, be it the research organization, and never to forget the small scale farmers. So, and why are we doing this? This is just to give you a context of what the global agricultural landscape looks like. So we have about 600 million smallholder farmers. Most of them have limited access to market, suffer from the problem of inefficient supply chains, face challenges when it comes to adopting digital practices, might not have the digital literacy. So every country, every region, every farmer has a different user persona, and they need to be reached separately and in their contextualized form. If we look at the total number of people involved in the agricultural food systems, it's roughly about 1.2 billion. That's a huge number that we are looking at. And for them, for reaching these are a number of people, the standard approaches cannot work. So probably we need to look at digital public infrastructures and digital public goods which are scalable and can reach population scales. The market size is 25 billion, so there is immense opportunity for public and private sector players to work on DPIs and take advantage of it to build solutions. And yes, there is 26% of the total global labor force is in agriculture. We need to have them in mind as well by developing solutions. Now, just to give you a glimpse of what, this is an old slide. Anyway, so this is just to give you a glimpse of why we are putting AI in DPGs as well. So while DPGs are scalable solutions which can be, which are open sourced and can be implemented in different geographies, we realize that making it more acceptable to the masses, making the information contextualized to the farmers, to the supply chain players, and even to the markets, we need AI and a layer of AI. AI will provide the data intelligence layer. It will help us help the farmers with real-time market insights, optimize the supply chain, and bring down the food losses that is a major problem in the agricultural ecosystem. And when it comes to precision agriculture, AI-based solutions like having an AI-based model for detection of soil health, plant needs, water content, etc., can help and assist in making precision agriculture a reality. AI can also help with personalized assistance, yield optimization, early detection of pests and diseases. It can also help in customizing the crop management plan if I'm a farmer and I want to adopt a new agricultural practices. So AI can help me with an advisory where I can access these solutions which are implemented in other geographies. Now, coming to the Open AgriNet toolkits, which is in the works by the Alliance. what we will be building is a set of open data sets. What these open data sets could look like, it could be a global pool of annotated data sets which developers and organizations can build to develop their models, be it pest detection model, be it an early climate risk model or something like that. Then tools and reference codes. These tools would be that they can be advisory tools, they can be tools for precision agriculture or something like that. So specification and standards would be a set of global standards which can be used to make agricultural data interoperable and accessible to a global community. The next slide gives the list of DPGs which are in the work, and there are a set of registries which are built, which Kirsch spoke about in the agri stack. Then there are tokenization standards which will help farmer probably to have a digital identity to their digital code to their production and probably sell it in the open market. Then there will be cataloging tools which will be of immense use to public and private sector players, and there will be decision support systems, etc. So with this, I would like to welcome you all to this effort, and we'll be having Samuel sir soon, who will talk about Vistar, which is an Indian instantiation of the Open AgriNet, which will talk about the networks, an open network which is being built as a data repository to connect the seeker content sites, provider side platforms which are providing agricultural content with the seeker side platforms like Samagra and Dehat, who are deploying solutions on the ground. So yeah, and to join the network, please sign in on this membership form. Thank you, and hand it over back to you, Akash.
Thank you, Kirti. It is exciting to see the Open AgriNet network and also the journey that it is going through. I would request all of you to just scan this code and then we'll proceed. It is an interesting initiative and alliance that is coming up. Now I would, so we have heard about a perspective on a global AgriNet that is coming up, or the alliance that is coming up. Now what we'll do is we'll get to microcosm of this network that is coming up in Maharashtra, Nasik to be precise. So I'll invite Venki to tell us about the UAI network that he is building. Venki is a founder of Agribusiness Matter and co-founder of Mandram. He's a leading agri-tech and analyst specializing in Asia and smallholder farmers. His firm has delivered insightful research to over 35,000 readers, supporting enterprise, NGOs and government in driving digital transformation in agriculture. His work has featured in publications like the Hindu Business Line and TED. He offers perspective on agri-tech innovation and climate change challenges. So I'll invite Venki to shed light on his new initiative.
So, am I audible? Yes. Yeah, I don't prefer to go inside and get locked in. So, anyways, these are topics that I would require us to really also talk about things, right? So, I want to start from a very different place. Probably, because given the nature of the subject, some of these things might seem very abstract to all of you. Okay? How many of you find all of these concepts and talks a little abstract? Can we have honest raise of hands? Okay, there are a few people. So I really want to start from a different place to give you a sense of what really possibilities could really be. And I always believe that the best place to get into the future is to actually go back to the history. This is an actual survey done by British about the rural India, rural Tamil Nadu in 1770. Now what is very interesting in this is, in 1770, this was before British came. And so they did a survey of how rural villages and the kind of level of prosperity that they had. So one of the surveys, the data that's here says is how the agricultural produce would get equally distributed across village infrastructure. So you will see that for 3 seasons, different temples and different places, you'll see here, you can see here the temples, the Brahmin scholar, the Dautra, Palega, Tukeri, these are all different communities who worked in the villages. And the agri-produce will be distributed among each of these members in the village. Now if you actually see, this is actually a real life agricultural network, because there is a produce that's coming from one center and it's being distributed across village institutions. So now, almost after 1770 to 2024, we are now coming to an age where through the internet infrastructure, we are trying to replicate something, a similar idea. Because what we are essentially doing is, here the village was the one with the center, the node, and was dictating how the resources would flow in. And so we are moving in from a centralized to decentralized. This is not specifically about a particular produce or what a farmer is producing, because we are talking about all the produce and they are getting distributed based on the purpose they serve in the village. So that's where it is a purpose centric here. It's not a curated, pre-organized where people are themselves, somebody from the top will say this is how you need to grow. Right? In each and the village, each of them are self-organizing themselves and then distributing it. Here we are not avoiding complexity by saying you only have to grow paddy, because that's what we largely today, a large part of the problems we see in agriculture is we are trying to avoid complexity. And we give them the one simple solution which carries subsidies and leads to a lot of problems. So we are trying to avoid, moving from that, we're moving from avoiding complexity to navigating complexity. Because we are letting now people in the network grow their own and then create networks for them to come together. Finally, ecosystem building, which is exactly what we are trying to do here. So in a way, if you really look at the bigger picture, right? Since there are a lot of really young people who are really looking at the aspiration, I really want to point out the big picture here, right? If you really look at the human society, we've all moved from a tribal life to folk life to feudal life to modern life. India is still at a transition between feudal and modern life, because we are not yet fully moved to modern. We still have a lot of feudal instincts, and that's why you still see a lot of problems in agriculture, which is struggling to go digitized. So in that, the modes of organizing are also changing in from tribes to countries to corporations, and finally to ecosystems. This ecosystems, the shift is where there is a lot of possibilities that exist, and that's where we really have a lot more ways where we can all come together and create. So Kirti was talking about the Vistar here. This is actual Vistar network here, and you will see that something similar to what the first diagram we saw. That is all different networks, platforms coming together, the Seeker platforms coming together, and then providing advice. Now, in UAI, what we are trying to do is we are trying to bridge all of these networks together. And essentially, what we are saying is we are dividing a farmer and asking them fundamental questions. We are asking the fundamental question of who I am, which is where an identity layer comes in. Then we are asking, what do I have? Do I have a drone? Do I have a specific set of land assets? What is my land collateral? Is it being digitized? What are the other assets I have? Do I have let's say a rotavator, or do I have an aggregation center where some kind of processing would happen? And then what are the networks are there? So now based on all of these, credentialing and tokenizing is happening, and we are bridging all of these together here. So in a way, at UAI, what we are trying to do is a local community-led open network, where we are think of us as a hyperlocal arm for ONDC, where we will be bridging across each of these different networks. Now imagine a scenario where a farmer is getting some advice for, getting a crop-specific advice from an application called Plantex. Now from there, based on the advice he's got from Plantex, he's able to source the right set of inputs from, say, ONDC. So imagine a network where you are able to sort of interface and create this global network, and the farmers are using it from, let's say, from the Plantex application, and then they are buying the inputs from ONDC, and then they are getting also the right set of advice and video advice, and let's say from Vistar, and then by selling the produce and selling the biomass that they have, they are able to move to a unified energy interface where they are able to get energy credits. So we are looking at this kind of an interoperable world that is very much interfacing and connected with all each other. So this is not something that is theoretical. This is already being deployed in Kenya, which is where it's also part of the OAN. So this is currently being done at a private level with village level entrepreneurs. Now for us at our end, we are trying to set this up in local Nasik district. So with Indigram Labs partnership, we were able to set up the initial level of discussions with farmers and FPO groups. As you would know, Maharashtra is the place where a lot of futuristic agricultural innovations are happening. Maximum number of FPOs are being set up in Maharashtra and the Nasik regions. So we've been able to have conversations with them. These are from our roundtable conversations that we've had with them. And we were able to talk to a lot of service providers and farmers who are super excited to really try this out. Because if you see here, in other networks, we're talking about a model where we are able to just not just bridge the demand aggregation, but also fulfilling it. So that you create an end-to-end cycle in terms of from a farmer going in, getting information, getting it resolved, and then finally accessing the right set of information that he can problem solve. Because fundamentally, farming is a domain that requires a lot of physical level transaction. So you can't remain at the level of information, and that's where the idea was to go to a specific region in Nasik and then create an end-to-end ecosystem and reimagine it. So these are the broad use cases that we are right now looking at. We are looking at use cases primarily in terms of agri-advisory services, because those are the low friction ones that we want to really move faster and get it done. We are also looking at equipment machinery rentals and also bridging together a lot of aggregation centers, which means if there are farmers who have their own cold storage, now they don't have to worry about whether do I have the nearest cold storage center or not, or travel a lot of distance, thereby wasting a lot of their produce and the money. So they can identify the aggregated cold storage networks and then bridge them in here. Then, and of course, equipment machinery rental is also another interesting use case where we are clearly seeing that they want to share the resources, whether it's a rotavator or a drone, and we have right now as a service models are being emerging. People only want to pay for a spraying per acre basis. So you want to build that kind of assets that will be shared. The most important one aspect here is price discovery, because we are right now in talks with ENAM. ENAM is one of the is the largest network here, and they are given a lot of reference data for the commodities and the prices that are there. So right now we still don't have reliable means of doing price discovery, because APMC markets is where which determines the price reference points. So we want to change that and bring together price discovery. The other most important aspect here is the rating of buyers. Right, today, if you and I don't behave well in an Uber driver, we can get a bad rating from her. Right? But a farmer can't give a rating to a buyer based on some promise and whether the promise was fulfilled or not. So we want to create and enable a system where we are able to give that kind of ratings for farmers. Farmers can give ratings for buyers, and so that and we talked about it in today's session, right? And that ratings can be transported and ported to, let's say, a transaction in say Dehat, right? And then figuring out who are the right set of buyers there. So there are a lot of possibilities that are emerging in here, but of course for the pilot we are only focusing on these three use cases because we want to build the network and build the scale. So that's it's about what we are trying to do in Nasik here. I'm happy to take in any questions and go deep dive into anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Venki. It is really exciting to see such a network coming up in Nasik, and really rooting for it. I'm sure all of us with that abstracted view, got a sense of how agriculture also functions in a community way and how technology is trying to bridge that thing. Now, I would like to call or invite Nikhil on the dais. So, Nikhil is Vice President Digital and Network Initiative at Dehat, and he is founder of Farm Guide. He's dedicated to empowering farmers through advanced technological solutions. With his work, he helps farmers on getting finance, insurance, buyers, and vital resources for boosting productivity and profitability. His innovative work right now is connecting millions of farmers to essential services and thus changing the agricultural landscape in the country. Over to you, Nikhil. Welcome.
Well, I'm the for-profit partner, so people would be worried that what a for-profit partner is being doing at the DPG session. So give me a moment. I have fixed this up.
As Mr. Kant in the morning said that a DPG or a DPI journey cannot be complete without a private participation. So we are not worried actually, we are excited.
I would say that it may not even start. So,
As long as we have public rates and private interest.
I'll just give you a second. Great. So guys, myself Nikhil Toshniwal, and thanks Utkarsh for inviting me to this session. So again, I represent Dehat over here, and Dehat is a for-profit company. We are proud to say that it took us 11 years to build something from where we are. Numbers aside, $2.5 billion company on an annual revenue rate. But to achieve that, and somebody just a week before, certain folks from Temasek were being present, and they asked that how much time will it take for India to have another Dehat. It shouldn't take any time apart from knowing that the data, disaggregated data, and the effort it requires for somebody to understand nuances at the last mile of each and every geography, each and every value chain is so difficult, and that is something to be solved. So that brings a for-profit partner like Dehat to be super bullish upon the need. It's not a good to have, it's a must to have, to focus upon building of DPIs and DPGs with involvement of every stakeholder. So with this thing, I shall quickly get into few of the DPIs and DPGs which we are being currently focused upon apart from number of things. So as Keerti opened up and she highlighted about agri network and the key issues about, you can see that shrinking labor force, which doesn't make it possible for any of the private company or level alone the government to put these resources at the ground to be eyes and ears about what's happening, because each and every business decision has to happen accordingly. Secondly, the farmer needs a changing. There has to be a method under which an insurtech or maybe a loan product, they are able to understand that what does a farmer archetype says, what is the new innovation they should do. If it's a seed company, they should understand where is the risk, what kind of new habits I need to get across, and these things have to be on fingertips. Secondly, on the other side, with the extension workforce, you cannot have 100x extension workforce. In that case, you require to get to the farmer in a much more interactive, inclusive and customized manner, such that they can understand us way better, in spite of they having a different language, a dialect. They may be competent on the side of videos, but they should be something for them. And the thirdly, if we think about the issues of climate, food security, when we talk about the farmers, it's something that definitely we should talk about, but we should also know that inefficient company and supply chains are also very perilous. Because at last, if you need to serve the farmer at the last mile, you need to make agri-businesses capable to be able to mitigate themselves with the risk of those changes. And that brings up that, do they have the tools? So that brings me to the three things. On the left-hand side, as you see, it's a kind of, farm map. So lately, we started experimenting onto how to understand each and every plot, the soil profile, the crop status. And we saw that, okay, let's build out a certain system which is highly interoperable with the agri stack. For example, if you're an insurtech, you can see All India map, you can zoom down and you can understand, okay, this is an area where there are, say, 1,000 farms, out of them 800 are doing, say, late sowing of paddy or whatever so. Such kind of profiles helps the machinery companies, irrigation companies, any of those stakeholders, be it the government, to decide their policies. So think about, just like you have a Google Maps, you have farm maps, which could be provided on fingertips, made open source, such that people can integrate with their own system. And for the banking and the insurance, they can integrate with AgriStack to fetch the land records. Over here, we are not focusing upon the land record, we are focusing upon the plots. Because we understand around 60% of India is being done by the tenants and the bataidars. That is our first thing. Second thing is that while understanding is like as somebody says that now everybody requires a financial information in the knowledge of Warren Buffett, provided you in a manner that your chacha does or your CA does, right? So same goes with the farming. That farmers requires that somebody who has a due understanding about knowledge base, about what better practices to do on grapes farming, how to get rid of pink bollworm, and all those things. But yet they are empathetical to the local needs, to the local inventories, to the local network, what happens, and to the local affordability. And that's something we are building a large language model for, which could be interoperable. So supposedly if you are in any company who wants to just integrate a plugin and you can launch your own AI avatar for your farmers. Think about if you are a company which is selling seeds, fertilizers, or even a government like IFCO, you have a QR code on your packet which a farmer scans, and the farmer can do n number of discussion about how to use the spirit, when to use it, what are testimonials on their fingertips in the local language. That's the second thing. Third thing, that's something which I told about, this is where we are aggregating, because as Dehat, we work with around 400 plus input plus companies, around 300 plus, buyers, Cargill, Kafkos of the world, and around 60 to 80 plus export hub in 23 countries. So with all those data set, we get to understand what are the transiting patterns. I'll give you a simple example. If there's an FPO which you meet today, and he or she asks that they want to start an agribusiness, how would you tell them that, okay, what are the inputs they should first have in their inventory? You're required to have the local database. And that is something which we have been aggregating the behavioral data, geographical data, and the transactional data, removing the PI information, such that these data set is being openly accessible by the partners through the platform, or they can integrate within their own ERP and SAP systems to take the right business intelligence. So these are three things where our aim had been to empower. First thing is on the side of making everybody on ground efficient, helping banking and financial products to be enhanced. Second thing, to help farmers to be better adopting to the advisories. And third thing, to help agribusiness to better adapt themselves. So these are things, I don't know whether I shall be able to play the videos, but in which ways that's something we can do. You can always reach out to us. That brings to me, so one of the very brief insight, in one of the sessions we got to have a discussion on what we can do further and learn more about evolving models on AI. So we got partnered with Dalberg, GIZ, and Gates Foundation, where we developed advisory bots, and we are currently working on to such bots. I'm just going to give it a try if it still works. If it doesn't, so maybe for later. In which ways this doesn't seem to be video. So that's something we need to also invest on infrastructure per se. So what I was trying to showcase is that an omni-channel bots, be it on a WhatsApp, be it on a web app, be it on IVRS, which a farmer can use. And towards the rightmost side was a portal where one can upload advisory, product, services, and network. These are the four components we see any agribusiness would have for it to interact with the farmers. So it's an open platform where one can upload the data and just embed the AI link, which they can again put it over their WhatsApp for the farmers to use it. So that's on the first part. And with this thing, we start with certain of the use cases, starting from top to bottom. A lot of those use cases are already being functional. Definitely what we see as a challenge is that text to video, text to audio, audio to text, ASR, how to make it Indian dialects. Those will always be a challenge, and it wouldn't be a binary, okay, that this is done. It is always going to be ever evolving. So that's on the second side. On the third side, what we wanted to put forward when it comes to DPG is that the vectorized data set. A lot of those data set indeed are with the government, and we do see that that's the integrability and interoperability with Vistar, ON, and such kind of platforms, where we can integrate such things which are also into privy of the private partners, because more than around 80% of the farmers are using somewhere the private products. So there has to be some repository such that the farmer gets a final answer. These are the vectorized data set which we have been putting forward. One thing which is special for us when we venture into cattle care is that to look gender lens and to also work on the biasness which potentially AI may have. And that's what we got a program being launched as a Tech for Her program, which we are doing with GIC Engage Foundation, where we have been working on to various different aspects of gender, be it on the side of how do you train the data set, be it on the side of how do you create the use cases for the women. And such could be multiple different archetypes. We require to work upon AI models which can come as a DPG and DPI, which could be for the older population, different archetypes of the farmer at a one go. This was something which I wanted to showcase you that on the left hand side, I have a soil test report, and we also developed a kind of text to video model where on the real time manner, with this copy of a report, it gets converted to an Hindi avatar where a woman starts saying like Dr. Shalini, नमस्कार शैलेंद्र जी, आपकी रिपोर्ट में नाइट्रोजन इतना कम है, इस नाइट्रोजन की कमी से आपके धान की फसल में ये अंतर पड़ेगा. This information, when we then asked the KVKs how did they feel, KVK was really excited and they saw that okay, this is something which is finally we see as a simple solution. That farmer came, he got a soil test, he got a video. Through this video he can understand in his own language. And that is something now we see a demand coming from on the side of insurance, that all the insurance policies or the banking, PM Kisan, these things could be provided to the farmer to raise higher and higher level of awareness. And these are things which brought us to to the set of DPGs, while the three ones which I talked are something which is ongoing exercise by Dehat. I will welcome anybody to see and exchange thoughts about how we can take it forward. And these are two DPGs which are also being part of our Tech for Her program, where we are looking to embed the vector DB and the text to video model so that anybody can took it, decentralize and use it. And that also opens up our gateways to integrate with Vista, AgriStack, ONN and such networks. So thank you so much. This is it from Dehat.
Thanks, Nikhil. That's really heartening to see. While you started on a note of a private organization or a for-profit organization, but doing so much in a public space is really heartening. Now, with that, while we have heard about the networks and a perspective from a private organization around agriculture and digital goods, now I would like to request Vijit to present his views or about a product that he has implemented with government of Odisha. What I would like him to share is his perspective of how government is taking up these digital public good and scaling it up for the farmers on the ground. Vijit is a senior consultant at Samagra and has spent 2 years working on agri-tech transformation with government of Odisha as part of Connect Odisha program. His work includes Krishi Samiksha Kendra, which is India's first centralized monitoring system in agriculture, scaling Ama Krushi, which is an IVRS advisory service to 60 lakh farmers in the state, and also implementing Krishi Sahayak, which is an agriculture co-pilot for extension workers and farmers in Odisha, and that he'll be talking about in detail. Welcome, Vijit.
Right. So let's start by talking about why we are all here, right? And this is something that we do very commonly in Samagra to pinpoint our solutions and get it right as much as possible. We are here to solve the problems of farmers and enable them to make a better living, not just for themselves, but for the whole country, right? Which is why the lens that we should take when we articulate the problem that different entities in the ecosystem are trying to solve should be the lens of that of a farmer. So look, let's imagine Sunita ji. She's a smallholder farmer, like about 80 to 90% of farmers in India. She owns less than 2 hectares of land, has some level of livestock in her house, and cultivates primarily one crop in her whole year. However, there is an aspiration of doing something better, of doing something more. Now, as all of us in the professions and domains that we are, whenever we want to excel or whenever we want to do something better than what we are doing right now, there is a lot of resources that are available to us, right? Be it from our institutions that we belong to, the organizations that we work with, the support systems that we have, or the general privilege of being connected to the latest developments in the world that exist. However, in case of Sunita ji, there are many things that can help her achieve a better livelihood, achieve a better future for her family. However, the means of doing that or the how of it, of getting this done, is still very ambiguous, is still very tricky. The answer to that is not out in the open, right? So what this leads to, it leads to something that I like to call adversarial information asymmetry, where you have all this information existing in certain locuses, in certain points, but the people who need this information the most are not getting access to that. And that's primarily because of two reasons. First is the lack of information availability in and of itself, right? When we do not have required information to provide to farmers. And the second is, even when we have that information, there are still significant challenges in delivering this information to the farmers in a kind of format, in a kind of method that works best for them, right? So there's two things that are being done to solve this at a larger level. First, of course, is something that people have talked about before. This is just one more representation of the Vistar network. So what Vistar essentially does is, whatever content or whatever advisories or whatever potential transactions that can possibly occur or that can possibly happen in the agriculture network, it centralizes and it brings all of them together through a decentralized network of networks, right? So be it Ama Krishi, which is an advisory network in the government of Odisha, or be it the different research institutes that you see in Pusa Road, which is a few kilometers away in West Delhi. So all these people, no matter who they are, if they're having government verification and they're developing good content, all of that is brought together and then disseminated to farmers and end users through different mechanisms, right? So this could be a state implementing an IVRS system, this could be a state implementing an SMS-based advisory delivery network, somebody doing it on WhatsApp, somebody doing it on a web application, whatever works best for that particular state, whatever works best for that particular context. So it essentially is solving the problem of contextualization in a most seamless manner by bringing together everything and giving users the option to choose the best possible product that works for them. One of these possible products is something that Samagra has worked on in different states in India, but starting from Odisha, right from the early parts of 2023. And this is Krishi Sahayak, or Farmer Copilot. What Krishi Sahayak does is that it solves the information needs of the farmers in such a way that farmers get the information that they require, when they require, in a format that works best for them. And it leverages artificial intelligence across the different methods, right? And picking up from different themes that we've been hearing on from today morning, it is interoperable, it is configurable, and it is modular. Now, what does this mean? The stack of Krishi Sahayak allows you to connect any particular medium, which is to say that whilst we are using a web application or mobile application in Odisha, if you want to tomorrow implement it in Madhya Pradesh and they feel that WhatsApp or Telegram is the best way to go about implementing AI Copilot for farmers in their state, they can easily choose any medium that they want to. Similarly, in the form of content also, if you believe that some state has some very unique agroclimate, which is why it should not connect to the Vistar network, it should have its own content repository, which is very localized that it should use. Our product also offers them the potential to have their own localized repositories that are prioritized for content. And similarly, in terms of the kind of involvement that artificial intelligence should have, the kind of subjectivity or contextualization that AI can enable or should enable, all of that is provided to governments in a very, very configurable format. So imagine that you are a block officer or a simple district officer in a particular state, and you want your district farmers in your district to have access to information basis some particular rules that you define. So we provide a very simple configurable admin panel that allows the government to contextualize all of these and really leverage Krishi Sahayak to develop a very, very contextualized solution for them. Now, how does all of this work in the life of a farmer? Let's again look at Sunita ji. Assume that it's the month of September, rainfall has just happened, it's the season of pest attacks and disease spreads in agriculture, right? So Sunita ji sees a pest attack in her green gram crop, let's just say. So what we want to do is make the entire journey, right from seeing a particular pest attack or even seeing a symptom of a pest attack in your crop, till the point of you applying some pesticide which is recommended by the government, which is organic, which is safe in your farm plot. So this entire journey can be digitized through the networks that the government of India has created and through the solutions that organizations like Dehat, like Samagra are implementing across the entire country. So right from identifying which pest has attacked your plot to sending the data across to pesticide dealers till getting the government recommended pesticide which is safe to be used and preventing other harms that will come across due to non-standard use of fertilizer pesticides or other chemicals. So as of now, Krishi Sahayak is active in 3 instances across India. Of course, Ama Krishi AI, which is the domain's Odisha specific chatbot, has been active in Odisha since the past 1 year. We also launched the Kisan Mitra AI in Uttar Pradesh, and third, of course, was the launch by the Ministry of Government of India in terms of the PM Kisan scheme and solving all queries and grievances with respect to that across the whole country. Now, what this also enables is, this really brings out the contextualization that I've been trying to drive. So, Krishi Sahayak is just the DPG that is powering everything. Every state has its own ability, has its own onus, has its own avenue to leverage Krishi Sahayak and contextualize it into something that works best for them, names it something that works best for the farmer there. So it's really about taking something abstracted and rooting it down through an admin panel, which is very, very configurable, low tech, low maintenance, that really helps states use this solution in a way that works best for them. Now, through this entire journey, we have had some key learnings, and I'll just summarize those learnings for the entire room present here. Because anybody who's working in agriculture, anybody who's working in digital transformations, these 3 things continue to be consistent across any intervention that you work at. The first thing is, trust from existing information sources is critical for adoption. You go to any state and you pick a smallholder farmer and you give them a simple chatbot and tell them that this will give you the best advisory for any and all questions. Even if that is true, if they don't have faith in the chatbot, they will not adopt it. Which is why when we go about driving adoption of our products in different states, instead of directly targeting the end user, we first build faith and build that relationship within the existing extension machinery. So they become the champions and then promote our system on the ground, which leads to more organic and more impactful adoption. The second is, tech needs to be optimized to incorporate linguistic nuances. Now, ultimately, despite the ChatGPT innovation and how powerful generative AI is, I still believe the most difficult problem to crack for anybody working in this space is to get the questions right. Because the way a farmer speaks in Sambalpur in Odisha is very, very different than the way a farmer speaks in Puri, is very different from the way a farmer speaks in Kalahandi. So you can't have a simple model that's developed and you implement it and you can't expect it to get the questions right. So tweaking those models, tweaking technology, tweaking AI algorithms to incorporate for linguistic nuances and literally understand what users are saying is the biggest possible tech piece that can be cracked and should be cracked in the Indian context. Solutions have to be effective. And third is, pulse on usage and users are key to iterate and enhance UI UX. The way our chatbot looked about 1.5 years ago when we first showed it to the government, and the way that it looks right now is very, very different, right? And Nikhil can also testify to the fact that how user research and engagement is with users is really a journey and is very tricky to get that UI UX right in the first place. So it's a completely iterative journey, users' needs, users' understanding keeps changing. So we as the ecosystem who develop such solutions should be cognizant of users, not just at a one-point exercise, but it should be a continuous and dynamic journey where we keep interacting with the users to understand what they need right from a technology and product standpoint. So I guess if we do these 3 things right, our ability to create impactful solutions in agriculture, especially through AI, will be significant. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for wonderful thoughts. Thank you Vijit for taking us through the journey of Krishi Sahayak. I'll open this up for questions if there are any questions with the audience. I have my own questions, but yeah.
Yeah, I had.
If you can introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Manu Gupta, representing consortium of organizations here. I've been very much interested on the agri-tech front. I also represent AWS Customer Council, and for the projects that were specific to LLMs, I'm very much keen and interested on understanding what approach are you observing over there. There is a fine-tuning approach for a more static approach, and the other is a RAG-based approach, pipeline approach. So a more dynamic approach that we have in enterprise. So in the agri-tech sector, I mean, which of these 2 approaches you are utilizing for developing agents?
So if I'm loud enough, sir.
So, first of all, that would depends on use case to use case. There are certain straightaway use cases. For example, if somebody wants to get into the products and understanding about it, so you can understand that those data sets are fairly structured in nature. So in that case, you can get ahead to having a few user flows being used to train and create those things. However, when it comes to a very few snapshots where there is a lot of unstructured data set, right? So in that case, you need to take the RAG approach into fine tuning, into getting, and even that, if that doesn't work, then you need to get into the reinforce learning through human feedbacks and include this feedback loop into your picture. So yeah, this is a complete funnel, and that depends on use case to use case. As we highlighted that it's going to be iterative user journey. And in this journey, I can also say that it is not necessarily that for every line of code of which you write, you're going to add one thing. You may even go back. So that's a harsh part of working into the Gen AI space.
Thank you.
I think I'll echo of all of what Nikhil said and just add one more thing to that. So RAG has been something that has worked best in the past for us. Of course, with an iterative journey and multiple blocks being present, as you saw in the entire tech diagram. One more thing that is genuinely worth exploration is the possibility of leveraging small language models for solving very, very specific use cases. A small language model will not cover agriculture and all of farmers' needs, but when it gets really tricky and when the impact quotient is really high, I think there's value in exploring that as well.
Thanks, Nikhil and Vijay. Any further questions? I have a question for Kirti. You have worked across Kenya and Bihar. You have an experience for both the geographies. If we were to look at both the geographies, what are the key differences in how technology works in both? Are there any key differences in the two geographies, and what are, if there are, what are those challenges or differences?
Primary difference is that Kenya does not have geo, so the internet penetration there is low, but that apart, if you look at the farmer behavior, it's quite similar. Indian farmers, if you go to Bihar, or farmers you go to Kenya, they look for a human who they can trust. And which is why I feel most of the organizations, like Bihar goes through the farmers through their Bihar extension agents, and Musa in Kenya goes through their agripreneurs, and likewise Samagra is also reaching out to the Jivikas and other. So there's a lot of similarity. The trust element is very crucial there. Internet penetration there is no. The farmers in Kenya are even more poor as compared to India. So reaching out to them, there is a lot more investment. The cost for reaching out to the farmers is a lot higher as compared to India. India is quite evolved, despite being very backward in agriculture. It's quite evolved in terms of the farmers.
Got it. No, then Open AgriNet also, just to emphasize, makes a lot of sense, because from whatever is getting built in India or Kenya can be taken to either of the countries, and also globally anywhere. Then.
So from the Open AgriNet perspective, I would say that yes, setting up these foundational protocols and networks will at least solve this basic problem for the countries and for geographies. They do not need to invest in the basic tech, and then they can go on, like Vijay was talking about, contextualizing, developing specific solutions. So a provider-side platform like Samagra or Dehat can work on user side of the story instead of investing in the infrastructure layer. That is something which should be a public good, and where government should have a major role in what people do.
Thank you. Sure.
We started with the private side, so we have private. So if you can go deep on what's the aspiration and what is the core that you would say that why we need this, and how do you see this becoming sustainable? Because when you're doing it, it's an investment, and looking at for your business needs, how will you make this? Because this would be a great inspiring story for other private players. So again, you can go deeper on that. I know it's not an agri question.
Thank you so much for asking, because that is something which cannot be heard lightly. But a very fair question. How do we see that? So first of all, we see our strength into being the last one, right? So when it comes to getting the seeds, fertilizers, insurance, or the finance to the farmers, getting their aggregation being sent for exports or to for the retail brands, that's where our strength lies. When we do understand more the transparency which we can provide and give it to our peers, better decisions they can take. Ultimately, since last mile has been our strength, so I'll give an example. If it is a Bayer or Syngenta's who are getting benefited into understanding, okay, that's the right area where they should be able to place their products. But as soon as they take that decision, then they have definitely comes out with its strength on the last mile. That out of all the options, we shall stand out. So that is the strength which gives us a backup that whatever we do is going to help us directly. Now directly to where do we think about only 2% of the Indian farmers go for soil testing, right? Think about only 2% of people took the medicines without taking a prescription. How weird is that? And does it help anybody's health? So even if we also want the farmers to adopt too much ownership technologies, it would require a very, very inclusive work to be worked there, because being in agriculture, we do understand our TAM, unlike food delivery, it is not 12,000 crore where you just mix tomato and sweet and that's a TAM. Over here the TAM is 20x about or 30x about where we are. So that is one. And secondly, more importantly, after working with around 10 years with so many of the agribusinesses, in spite of those agribusinesses are something like 100 years old, but they do lack technical backbones, like the deep tech backbones. So, and that is something somebody has to take up. Ideally, they could have been the marketplaces, but in agriculture, marketplaces may not work because agriculture has nuances of licenses, has nuances of hyper-localization, has nuances of pricing, has nuances of a lot of regulations. So in that case, having a DPG-like approach where you make the business intelligence open to people makes sense. And at last, to answer your question, one thing in a similar session happened. Out of all the private players which have been sitting, somebody asked that is any private player making money by providing farmer information about days in hailstorm? Right? No. Secondly, is any private player benefiting by not letting this information known to anybody that there will be a hailstorm? So that's not the thing, and why not to make it open?
Thanks, Nikhil. With that, I have a question for Venki. So whenever we think of networks, especially when we have been thinking of networks, we have been thinking always at a government level, at a state level, etc. Right? But when I heard about UAI, and then you told me that it is happening in Nasik with 20 FPOs, I was really intrigued. But how did you design that vision that there should be a network for, let's say, I would say hyper-local network? What brought you there? What was the thesis that brought you to that smaller network instead of thinking of something? There are national networks, there are state networks, but still having a hyper-local network. What is your
When you think in first principles, you automatically arrive at this place that the farmers' problems are very local problems, right? And also there is very little universalization of farmers' problems, right? A farmer is like what you were saying, right? The farmer who is in Kalahandi would speak differently, would have a various set of problems. So today, with tech, with standardization, we like to imagine that a problem faced by a farmer in Punjab is similar or somewhere similar. At least you might agree on the variance of in terms of there, but we'll still think that way. But I think fundamentally a lot of differences in the farmers, the way the reforms have happened. Like for instance, you take their Dehat, right? Dehat has had there is a history of APMC reforms that have happened in Bihar, which led to the growth of Dehat and where they are. So each of the state has its own set of history there. So to come back to your specific, the reason where for us to do it in Nasik in a hyper-local form is obviously the FPO ecosystem is fairly mature and advanced in Nasik belts. You would see today the majority of FPOs which have more than about 5 CR are all operating in Maharashtra. So automatically, and obviously when we are talking about addressing the farmers' problems, we can't give gyan or advice and then say let them figure out. Because fundamentally what farmers, when we spoke to the farmers as a part of the pilot, the thing that they asked us, give us something that will help us our livelihood. Because actually that's a very clear ROI that's set by them. And actually very good, honest ROI there. We can't really bluff around or give them some information and expect that that'll solve their problems. Because their problems are hardcore problems. So that's where it becomes very obvious for us to go for a hyperlocal approach and also bridge to whatever. I mean, see, there are all attempts are needed. We can't just focus on hyperlocal. We need also an ONDC. We need all kinds of networks around. We need a Vistar which has to do a demand aggregation at an information level, because then only then we can look at demand fulfillment. So we are trying to, because it's part of the same protocol network, we are trying to bridge them all together and kind of create a seamless experience.
So is it safe to say that it's not only Vistar and ONDC, we will be seeing a lot of such hyperlocal networks in the country, which opens up opportunity for a lot of people who are sitting over here?
Yeah, absolutely. We are looking forward to creating UAI in Odisha also. And we are looking to create each of the UAIs in different state networks. Because then we can integrate. It's not, for us a pilot, we wanted to do it at Nasik. But and one of the reasons why I came here is to really see that we are open for partnerships, and we would love to collaborate with different states and different networks, build different DPIs which we can then integrate together.
Got it. Thanks, Venki. With that, we'll have to close this session. Thank you so much, Nikhil, Kirti, Venki, and Vijit for that those insightful thoughts. A big round of applause for. He also has all gifts for you.
Sure. You're the overarching network.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Guys, we can all move to the main section now. The next panel is already begun. We are kind of running.